This changes everything for the Toronto Maple Leafs as rumors are starting to swirl surrounding one particular player regarding the Toronto Maple Leafs. And while all reports have been focused on Brad Treliving adding to the top six, adding to the team in general, there's one thing that fans aren't talking about that changes everything. We're going to break that down and discuss some recent rumors and reports that have surfaced surrounding it, as well as a very difficult decision the Leafs are forced into. But before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. About 71% of you who are watching right now aren't subscribed. You guys have been absolute beasts with the support, so thank you guys for that. As we're on the road to, of course, 25,000 subscribers and the bigger goal of 30,000. Darius, all the talk lately has been about trades, and that will continue to happen as there's a lot of rumors surrounding that. And I do think Brad Treliving is ultimately going to make another move. But something that no one's talking about here, and that really changes the landscape of not just next season, but beyond that, is Anthony Stolarz and his pending, I guess, last year prior to free agency. And of course, his play next year and how that's going to factor into things. I want to bring some things up. We know how good he was last year. He signed that 2-year deal in the summer of last season, offseason rather. And since then, he was dominant last year, dealt with injuries, of course, the playoffs, all these different things that injured in the playoffs. In extension here, the Leafs have an interesting goalie tandem going into next year. Joseph Woll, Anthony Stolarz. His play is going to change the outlook of this team, going to change the outlook of course, now Joseph Woll's contract's officially kicking in. But there's some rumors about potential extension here surrounding Anthony Stolarz. He's back on the ice, and I'm very curious to see what you and everyone in the comments thinks about this as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that he, emerged as the starter at, I would say, some point, but I think probably from the start of the season last season. And, when they made this signing, I was like, Stolarz is a great backup goalie in Florida. And I think this was a very good stopgap, whatever you want to call it, option, kind of like a Jake Allen and what they were doing in Montreal with Jake Allen. I thought it was similar to that, where it's like, okay, you're bridging the gap a little bit here, where you get like a pretty good goalie in, and obviously he's going to come in, give you quality starts, and then, the guys in the Marlies are going to make that impact in the next couple of years. But not so sure that's the case anymore. This guy is a starter in this league. He played fantastic for the Leafs, and him going down in game one against the Florida Panthers really did change that series in a lot of ways, right? Obviously, it wasn't the deciding factor. I don't think that, but it was definitely a factor in the series and how certain games did go. So he's been fantastic. And, he's been training this offseason. He looks great in all the videos of him training the offseason. For a guy his size, how athletic he is, like he's a unicorn, right? And net. So he's been absolutely fantastic. And again, we're heading into the final year of his contract. They only signed him for 2 years. And at only 31 years old, I think it's an interesting question to start asking, when is it time to start thinking about re-signing him? Do the Leafs even re-sign him? Or do they say, thank you for your service, and we're going to, put the ball in the hands of a couple guys in the Marlies? We'll get to that later in the video. But I think it's time that we at least start talking about it, because man, he was fantastic. I expect him to be the starter again this year. No disrespect to Joseph Woll. I'm a huge Joseph Woll supporter, huge Joseph Woll guy. I know a lot of people, it's not their cup of tea, but he's been fantastic. We have to at least start talking about it, because some of the statistics he was putting up last year, he was unbelievable.
Yeah, you can see here some of his stats. I want to dive into here from Leafs' latest. It could be because of how the season ended with injury in the playoffs, but I don't think we realize how great Anthony Stolarz was in the first season with the Maple Leafs, or his first season rather. He needs an extension soon, and that's where the conversation is going. And especially as you start to look at, maybe the Leafs could trade a goalie in this offseason for a top six. Maybe, heading into the trade deadline this upcoming season, obviously getting ahead of myself a little bit, that's going to be a big question, because they do have a surplus of prospects down there, at least as it pertains to, like, you have Dennis Hildeby, you have Arthur Tiamov, you also have Joseph Woll, who is your, I guess, A-B option goalie. And of course, you have Joseph Woll, Anthony Stolarz, who Stolarz specifically 21-8-3 with a 2.14 GAA. And I think a lot of this comes down to what he does next season. Can he sustain this? Can he remain healthy? If he sustains something close to this, he's going to be earning himself a big paycheck. And the unfortunate reality is it might not be with the Leafs if he plays this well, because he might go out of the Leafs payday, in the sense of the Leafs can, of course, afford anyone really. But they have Joseph Woll. I don't know if they want to pay two goalies a ton of money, because they're paying Joseph Woll like low starter money right now and hoping he bounces, back from what was an interesting year. Last year you could argue it was good. You could argue it was, bad compared to expectations. But his last 10 starts in the regular season, he was the best goalie in the NHL. When he was healthy in the playoffs, he was one of the best goalies, if not the best goalie, in the playoffs. It comes down to injury. It really changes the landscape of what he could get. And as it pertains to free agency, like I just mentioned, he's going to earn, assuming he has a season even remotely close to last year, between 4, 5, maybe even 6 million, because of A, the cap going up, and B, how difficult goalies are to come by in free agency. They rarely ever hit it.
Yeah, and you could see here from Scotia Stat projections, they've been pretty much bang on with all their projections since July 1st. If they are wrong, it's maybe by a year, maybe a couple $100,000. But this is what Stolarz is playing at right now. And the most likely projection is a 4-year contract extension. Let's keep in mind, he's not the oldest player either, right? Like if he was 35, I'm sure we'd be having a different conversation, 35, 36 years old, but he's not, right? So most likely, contract extension would be a 4-year deal. And again, at a hefty amount, you're almost at $5 million. So if you look at last year, before Joseph Wool's contract extension kicked in, you have a goaltending tandem that was very good for like $3 million or just over $3 million. And then this year, very different story. Joseph Wool's contract extension kicks in. He's making more than Stolarz. I would imagine after all of this is said and done, Stolarz, whether he is a Maple Leaf or not, will be making more. And I think that's really where everything comes into question now. I think that you have the time and you should use it. I don't think this is a Mitch Marner situation. Go into the season. I don't think you need to sign it before the season starts. See how things go. And I think you really need to see, and I'm a big fan of Anthony Stolarz too. I think he was absolutely unbelievable last year. I actually couldn't believe he was as good as he was. It was like a breath of fresh air. Like you don't have to worry about the goaltending whatsoever, but you have to go into the season and see if Joseph Woll takes a step forward. Then you can reevaluate things. If he looks more calm, more poised, because again, he let in a couple stinkers last year where you're like, man, I don't know if you could just rely on this guy to be the starter and heading into the future. And it's a good thing that we had Stolarz in net. So you have to see if he takes a step forward in that way. Then you go to make a decision because you're looking at the Marlies now. Hildeby hasn't looked good at the NHL level. He's still developing. He's still relatively young, right? I do think that Akhtiamov is the guy that's going to be the starter at some point in the future. He's going to be the guy, the solidified #1 starter, but I think that's still a few years away. He's still very young, continuing his development with the Toronto Marlies as well. So you're going to need a guy to play goalie with the Maple Leafs. And I think that, the tandem can stay together with the rising cap. The Leafs have a ton of salary cap space or projected salary cap space heading into next offseason with a bunch of their guys locked up as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing. But I think, don't rush into it. We need to at least start talking about it and acknowledge it. Nobody's talked about Stolarz since the end of the season. He's heading into the last year of his deal. You have to at least start talking about it, but use the time that you're given and evaluate things maybe halfway through the season. To me, just see where Joseph Woll is and then make a decision. If you're like, we absolutely have to keep Stolarz, then you go that way.
Yeah, obviously, Joseph Woll, first year of his extension. We'll see how he does. Like if he's really, really good, then obviously you're probably at a point where it makes it less needed to bring back Stolarz. Or let's keep in mind as well, like that last year was the first year where he actually was a full-time, basically starter. Like he was a backup for his entire career, basically. So see how his body recovers. See if this is a sustainable thing. The league's going to make adjustments. They're going to find his weaknesses. They have more film than ever now. But also the Leafs, they have a better defense in front of them for the entire year. They added Brandon Carlo. Guys are used to playing together. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But let us know down below. Do you want to see an extension? At what dollar amount if they do? And of course, this probably won't happen till, next offseason, but it could also happen some point throughout the year, depending on how things go. Or do you want to see a guy like Artur Akhtiamov take the reins, who had a pretty good year last year nonetheless? But that'll wrap it up. Let us know down below what your thoughts are. Thank you guys for watching. Cheers.